Hi, and welcome to my presentation for Comm 140. I am looking at LGBTQ representation in film in a globalized market with differing ideologies. I'm going to start out with the GLAD 2020 Responsibility Report, which was just released on July 16th. There were 118 films released by a major studio in 2019. 22 of these films had LGBTQ characters. However, within these 22 films, only 9 films had characters with 10 minutes or more screen time. More than half of the characters received less than 3 minutes of screen time, and a majority receiving less than 1 minute. LGBTQ people of color fared worse. For the second year in a row, representation dropped, going from 57% in 2017 to 42% in 2018 to only 34% in 2019. This is quite a shame when Moonlight won for Best Picture just a few years ago. And for the third straight year, there were 0 transgender characters in all 118 major studio releases. Meanwhile, television is increasing. 10.2% of broadcast series regulars are LGBTQ characters. And on broadcast and cable, 52% of the LGBTQ characters are people of color. There are 38 regular and recurring transgender characters across broadcast, cable, and streaming platforms, and that includes 5 non-binary characters. So why is film underrepresenting the LGBTQ community, but television seems to be embracing it? Well, it comes down to globalization and profits. How studios create and treat their product differently for the dominant ideologies of different cultures. According to Deadline's report in January of this year, they reported on the 2019 box office revenue. There was $42.5 billion made globally. Of that, 31.1 billion came from the international market, which is 73%. Compare that to 1991, where the international market accounted for only 30% of the box office revenue. CNBC in November of last year released the 2018 Chinese box office report. The Chinese box office made $9 billion. It is only second to the US and Canada at $11.9 billion. And more than a third of China's highest grossing films were made in the US. So staying aware of the Chinese market and its ideologies is shaping content and representation in Hollywood. Films depicting homosexuality get banned or censored in China. LGBTQ characters are given little screen time and becoming ancillary and are easily removed without affecting the plot or story of the film. Sometimes some slips through, but not much. Here is a list of some examples. Alien Covenant, a kissing scene between 2 male androids was cut. Bohemian Rhapsody, several scenes referencing Freddie Mercury's sexuality was cut, including a moment in drag and a scene where Mercury informs his bandmates he has AIDS, had the dialogue removed. Brokeback Mountain, banned. Call Me By Your Name, banned. And it's not just China. Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia all have banned the film Onward due to this lesbian character. And in Russia, they had the line, "My girlfriend's daughter," changed to "my partner's daughter." Studios are ceding artistic and creative control to countries with different ideologies for the profit those countries bring. So how do studios satisfy American and foreign audiences? Well, if you're Disney, the largest studio of all, you queerbait. Creators hint but do not actually depict LGBTQ representation. Movies such as Le Fou and Beauty and the Beast being gay when it's only shown as a quick dance scene with another man as people are changing partners. Avengers claiming to have a gay character when it is only a 45-second clip of a man in a support group talking about going on a date with another man. And then there's Star Wars saying that Lando is pansexual, which seemed as a shock to Donald Glover. These are all quick blink and you miss it moments that are easily cut for the foreign markets. Queer baiting perpetuates that these moments are sufficient representation. It makes it easy for audiences to accidentally inject subtext as they are searching for representation. And it gives false representation and is not a sufficient replacement for normalized queerness. If it can be cut and it makes no difference to the plot or story, it is not worthy of credit. Representation matters. According to GLAAD's 2019 Accelerating Acceptance Index, young Americans aged 18 to 34 acceptance of LGBTQ people is falling. It has gone from 53% in 2018 to 45% in 2019. So, how do we increase LGBTQ representation in films, particularly when studios are looking at the Chinese and foreign market? What will it take? Well, according to Variety, a pandemic. With the slump of filmmaking in China, many are looking at the rise of independent film. Filmmaker Fan Popo says, if there is independent films in China, I believe LGBT films will be a part of it. Independent films challenge a dominant ideology. There's also subgenres in cult films. There is a thirst for LGBTQ content in China, which is a cultural contradiction to the dominant ideology. There's the subgenre of boys' love, which is growing rapidly. You just have to look at Untamed on Netflix and how that became the biggest thing this past year. Call Me By Your Name, although it has never been released, has a large cult following in China. Filmmaker and activist, and I will mispronounce his name, Wei Zhanggang, says, no matter what kind of LGBT film you make right now, people really pay attention. With all this cultural contradiction of the rise of popularity of boys' love and a possible new wave of queer independent filmmaking in China, will that have an effect on American films? Well, it all comes down to America's dominant ideology, the almighty dollar. And inclusion is good for the bottom line. Love Simon, Rocketman, and Booksmart all more than tripled their earnings. Studios are more than happy to show representation on television. They must be willing to do the same for film. It's a slow process, and subtle content has been making it through. But there is a demand for more. And it is up to the studios to step up and challenge the ideologies keeping queer people from truly being represented. Thank you very much.